Well, it's a federal holiday here in the United States, and it is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Now, this holiday is observed here in the United States on the third Monday of January each year. And I probably don't need to remind you, but King was the chief spokesperson for nonviolent activism in the civil rights movement, which protested racial discrimination in federal and state law and in civil society, probably most importantly. The movement led to several groundbreaking legislative reforms here in the United States. And if you ask me, many of those reforms are now under attack. DEI, CRT, systemic racism, school trajectory, media, politicians, and that blue haired lady at the checkout stand all want us to be categorized, divided, polarized against each other by intrinsic qualities, physical qualities, namely race. Joining us now to discuss is Project 21 member DawnMarie Boursiquot, and she's the owner of An Uncommon Voice Coaching and Consulting and the host of Life. It's Only a Decision, which you can find on Facebook and YouTube, and The Process 319 with DawnMarie. DawnMarie, welcome back to State of the Nation. It's lovely to see you. It's MLK Day, and I'm curious, how do you think Dr. King Jr. would feel about DEI, CRT, and our current social trajectory in the United States?
I can't speak for him, but I can speak for the legacy that he left. And we know that the purpose of that legacy and his mission was to make sure that Black Americans and all Americans, for that right, were judged and given opportunity based on their inalienable rights, not for the color of their skin, but based on what they bring to the table, their abilities, their talents. And I think right now it is an absolute travesty of what we see that's happening in our nation as it relates to race in this country.
Yeah. Hey, DawnMarie, Steve here. It's so good to see you.
You as well.
It's, call me a cynic, but really I'm a realist here. I see what's going on. We all see it. Identity politics, I think it's been played to death. I think it's not just a dead horse. It's a withered carcass of a horse. And it's continually beat upon by people that wish to divide. Divide and conquer goes the adage. And at what point is the left, and for that matter, the right, people that play this game, when are they going to say enough? We're done with this. This isn't what we have a African American first. Well, actually, I think she's Jamaican American. I don't know, but she's a Black first lady. We had a Black president. We've got Black governors, Black mayors, but yet they can't let go of that. It seems to become we know it's been a political cudgel. But is that cudgel getting smaller? And is it as significant as it once was?
What we have to do is take our power back as people. We need to build relationships with one another. And it's funny because you'll watch the news and we're all divided and we hate each other and Black, racist. And if you're a male, then you're toxic and all this nonsense. But when you get out into the real world, people are doing real world things. They're building relationships. They're taking care of their families. It all boils down to one simple thing that's not yet so simple, and that is mindset. We all know that there's an old adage that says, as a man thinketh, so is he. So when we spend more time concerned about the externals, if I spend more time, Steve, worried about what you and Brian think of me, that's less time for me to do what I have been called to do in this earth. That's less time for me to exercise my talents, my abilities, my giftings. That's less time for me to connect with the people that are going to come around me and to support me. So once people get sick and tired of being sick and tired, once Blacks and whites get tired of the division, when we come together and say, well, what's the problem? How can we come together? Where have I been ignorant? Both Black and white. Once we come together and stop allowing these pundits and these negative leaders divide us, that's when it's going to turn. Because when we begin to take our power back, they aren't going to be able to pit us against each other any further.
Yeah. Dawn, I just watched, poor me, I just watched this film that was produced by Barack and Michelle Obama. It's called Leave the World Behind, and essentially it's an apocalypse movie and it's based around the concept of what the World Economic Forum has been experimenting with, doing little tabletop exercises. They call it cyber polygon, but basically it's a scenario in which all the communications and digital bits and baubles that make up the United States get turned off, and people start turning on each other. And I couldn't help but notice in the film that there is this concept of race built into the film. There's an African American father and daughter, and then a white family. And watching the dialogue between them and knowing that a former president of the United States, the one that ran on hope and change, which, is a huge can of worms, produced this film. And in one scene, you've got the young black woman, and she's talking with her father, and she's schooling him on why he can't trust any white people in an apocalypse. And I could not help but think, in a situation like this, I feel like America, yes, it might experience something like that in urban centers, but I feel like the wider aspects of our population would not behave that way. I mean, I have neighbors of all colors and creed. I'm friends with all of them. If we all lost our power in my neighborhood, I feel like we would band together. There would be no discussion of anyone's, state of melanin. I mean, what do you think about this?
Again, I'm a relationship girl. I've studied mediation and conflict resolution, and I've looked at the mindset of people when I was working on my other graduate studies. And again, we have to come back to a different mindset, and we have to come back to some level of spiritual beliefs. At the end of the day, we cannot continue. I don't care if you're fat, white, black, overweight, skinny, whatever the melanin in your skin is. If it's your earth suit, I don't care. And we have to get back to the content to the way people are. In America, with the gas prices and inflation, who has time to be worried about, the color of your skin? We are all trying to live and to make it. For whatever reason, Barack Obama does what he does because he continues to foster that seed of unhealed traumatic generational racism that has happened in our country, and they keep fueling it. And it's something, if you look at the literature, it's called collective memories. Let's think about it, guys. If you and I were all in an environment where, let's say, something tragic happened to us, and then somebody else came in and kept stoking that fire and stoking that fire, would that fire ever go out? And that's what you have. As we as Black Americans move forward to success, you have somebody else saying, you can't trust them. Don't do it. They're not worthy. But I, as a Black American, I don't want my, when I go to do coaching or go into a corporate environment to do a training, I don't want them to look at me and go, oh, well, we can't trust you because you're Black. And I don't want to look at my doctor or whoever else that way. So we need to, again, all take a look at ourselves, because nobody is walking around unscathed. We have all, whether directly or indirectly, contributed to the problem. Maybe it's just staying in our own world, in our own little bubble of our 6 degrees of separation, and we haven't reached out, which then could give the impression that one may be something that they're not. So we all have to make a concerted effort to come alongside this issue and say, no, we're not going there. Because if a bomb hits America and it's not looking too good, what we see going on in our nation, who cares? Can you save me? Do you have food? Do you have water? And we see this happening in Florida and other places where there are hurricanes. I even saw in the height of 2020, when there was a natural disaster, somebody had a meme that says, nobody cares what color you are when you have a boat, because I need the boat.
That's right.
And that's what we need to be looking forward to. We can't keep letting these people divide us, because there's no black and white heaven if you believe in heaven, and there's no division in that respect and anything else. So we just have to just stop the nonsense and come together.
I think you're spot on, and I really do wish that people would heed your words, and I think you're right about one thing. I think the vast majority of people, Americans in this case, do just exactly that. And they if they're in the middle of a flood, they're just looking for a boat. They don't give a damn what color the skin of the captain of the boat is. But that kind of goes to the point, though, doesn't it, DawnMarie, that's the reason these divisions are this wedge is driven. Because if we ever did come together, God help the politician that drove us apart to begin with. So they can't ever let that happen. It does seem there's a concerted effort to make damn sure that we're all envious or angry at our fellow Americans. I think it's a crying shame, and I think that there are people on both sides that are guilty of it. But on
Exactly,
today of
because
all
here's
day,
what happens when we bring our differences, when we bring the fact that most Black people are more outspoken and they're very colorful in what they do, right? They're very gregarious in what they do. That is excellent. We need to post that in some sales trainings. We need to get people to do that. And then we may have white Americans that are more, maybe a little more quiet or whatever it is. The beauty of it is that when we bring these people together in community in a workplace, we add flavor, we add and that's the positive side of diversity, not this negative earth suit kind of what do you look like kind of thing, but what do you bring in your talents and abilities that maybe comes with your culture. You know, we all love the blues. We know where the blues came from, but look at how it influenced everything else. So when we begin to separate, nay, let's not do that. But let's celebrate the differences that the cultures have and how that can help us as Americans instead of trying to maybe assimilate. Maybe we got it wrong a little early in our founding because we didn't know that people were going to do what they're doing now. But now we need to learn to celebrate the differences and look and say, like a good recipe, how can I add that to what I'm doing over here to give me success and to add to your success as well?
I mean, that was the whole thing. That's where we were headed in the 90s. In my perception, it's like, okay, we're at this point now. The old ideas of judging people by their skin color and, whatever cultural archetypes might be, in one's own software, were sort of falling to the wayside. And it was the same with sexual preferences too. There wasn't a whole lot of, just hatred over that kind of stuff. I mean, maybe a little bit on the evangelical side, of course there's the fringe extremes, but I feel like the larger segment of the population was on a much better path before. I don't know when did it start with hope and change? I mean, did Barack Obama, is that sort of the benchmark to look for when DEI and social justice started to become like, the big linchpin, the long pole in the tent, especially for young people in our college systems? I mean, what do you think about that?
I think that we've redetermined or redefined what acceptance means. I don't need to validate you and what you do to accept you as a person. And so now what happens if I disagree with you, all of a sudden that means that I don't accept you as a person. And that's not true. I don't care if you're transgender, whether I agree with it or not. I don't care if you're gay or lesbian. Whether I agree with it or not, especially in the work environment, because we're there to do a job. Now, if we are able to have affinity groups outside of work and get along, great, but not everybody's going to get along with everybody. So what has happened is we've changed this narrative to where if you dare to disagree with me, then you're an evil person and, we need to vilify you. But again, I believe that there's more of us that are on the positive side that says, look, if you want to be friends and relate and have a relationship and celebrate each other's talents and abilities, I'm willing to do that because I don't need to agree with everything about you. But I think what's happening is because people are suffering right now, they want validation. Well, I don't need validation. I have validation by something greater than anybody can give me. And people have to find that. If they believe that they're supposed to be something or do something, then you need to recognize that if you believe that your creator created you that way, though I may disagree, then you need to walk boldly and be who you were called to be and stop asking for everybody to accept that. Jesus didn't do it. So why are we asking people to do it? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well said. I mean, well said indeed. I think that the whole to Hesh's point, I don't know if I would lay this all on Barack Obama. I think Obama took full advantage of it. But I remember back in the days of Clinton, and back in those days, it wasn't called cancel culture. It wasn't called diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was called political correctness. And that's where,
good, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where we've gone. We've gone from politically correct to everything that's come after, and it's just been kind of a nightmare in a lot of ways. And I certainly do hope that your words fall on some very willing ears, because that's what we do need, to look for the best in each other and stop looking for the differences. And really, even more so, DawnMarie, is stop paying attention to the people that are telling us to look for the differences, right?
When we understand the real definition of love, love is not about performance. Love just is. And that's what we have to get back to. I don't need to validate you. I don't need to agree with what you do to love you, because I'm loving you because of your inalienable qualities as a human being and as a person. But unfortunately, when people are not possibly comfortable in themselves, they need that validation, because we all wake up in the morning and we know, okay, maybe that wasn't a good day, or maybe I shouldn't have said that. So when we begin to love people just because they are deserving of care and compassion, and understand our own maladies, understand our own faults, then I think it's going to be a better place. But as long as we keep thinking that we're an idol unto ourselves and people have to bow down to what we think and feel.
We got to run, Dawn. That is very well said. We really appreciate you. Project.